My name is Udit Sethi. I'm a partner with KPMG. I'm a part of technology transformation team. My focus primarily is on areas of digital transformation, innovation, and emerging tech. I've got a wonderful panel with me. I think Arnav took my piece while introducing all of them, but it wouldn't be fair if we don't give them about a minute to brief about themselves. So maybe very quickly, Gaurav, with you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I am Gaurav. I take care of cloud business unit for Vividian. As part of this business unit, we are doing a lot of solutions for our customers around GenAI. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, Gaurav. Raj, please.
Hi, I'm Raj Kiran. I'm Senior Director at Ola Krutrim, and I lead all the LLM space, the embedding models, encoder models, as well as the SaaS applications, and the entire AI stack over there.
Thank you, Raj. Vijay, please.
Hi, I'm Vijay Sheriga. I'm the telco specialist for telco accounts here in India, and I've been working with ecosystem partners, mainly working along with them on the technologies, new innovations, and bringing new platforms into the telco domain.
Thank you, Vijay.
Hello everyone, I am Nakshatra Gupta, Head of Solutions, Network Services and Solutions Unit, TCS. We work with our global customers for their network transformation journey and Gen AI infusion and building use cases for our customers globally. Thank you.
Thank you, Nakshatra. Viti?
Hi, thanks, Udit. Viti Bindra, I'm based out of Houston, Texas. I work for Kyndryl, IBM spinoff, and my charter is to manage Microsoft Global Alliances for my company. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jeevan, and I'm working as a Vice President with Geo Platforms. One of the major responsibilities that I carry is to position the indigenous stack of Geo, including cloud, radios, automation suite, AIML engine to telecom operators outside India. Thank you.
So let me make it easy. Just a quick context. I don't think GenAI needs an introduction. I initially thought that I'll come and share the GenAI story, CAGR, stat, but I soon realized that there was a slide up here just before this session. So just not to be repetitive, I would very quickly start with some interactions and then we leave it for the crowd and for the team to come in with some questions. Even while you have the mic in your hand, why don't you tell us about your journey and Geo's journey with GenAI?
Yeah, thank you, Udit. It's a new beginning, so to say, because we are kind of a well-funded startup within Reliance Group. However, it's a new beginning for us, primarily because we are getting into an oligopolistic space, which is dominated by European players, and we are trying to position our indigenous 5G stack to telcos. Of late, I had seen that there are a lot of requirements which are around digitalization, and hence there is a requirement to use the AIML platform to manage the network and reduce the cost of operations and bring in more efficiencies. So what is it that we're exactly doing at Geo? Let me tell you. Our GenAI is a working model. We are using it within Geo network today at a very huge scale, primarily because Geo has about 150 million 5G subscribers and 490 million overall subscriber base. More than 50% of the traffic on the network is contributed by 5G, so it has overtaken the traffic of all the 4G subscribers today. And there are about 1,200 pods that we are managing all across India. It's only the core network of more than 10,000 servers, so it's very huge, you can imagine. And if there is a human intervention into this, then it's a disaster. So it's left out to the systems to manage the updates, upgrades, even installation of the cloud native network functions onto the servers is happening remotely. So my operations cost has come down to a big extent. And moreover, we have a platform which is called as Atom. It's automated troubleshooting and operations management engine. So what it does is the data from the network is exposed to the NMS layer, and the NMS is exposing data to Atom layer. Atom is nothing but an AIML engine in which we have pre-fed a few use cases. I'm not saying that it does everything. It only works basis the pre-fed use cases. So for example, we have conversational AI enabled into this. So I could ask a question saying, in Mumbai circle, there were how many call failures yesterday? It's as simple as that. It's a low language model that I'm using. There's a human interface, it understands my language, and then it just gives me the data saying yesterday, date so and so, these calls were attempted, these many calls have gone through in Mumbai Circle, and these many calls have failed. So it is as simple as that for the users, the new engineers, because they don't need to learn the commands to operate the network. That's one. Secondly, there is a cluster like AMF, SMF, UPF, which is installed into the network. We have about 110 multi-access edge compute locations in India. So it's difficult for me to know how much of capacity are they built up for, because every cluster is built up for a different capacity. So I just go to a particular cluster, and I can go at any level, starting the country level, region level, cluster level, server level, even the instance level. If there is a failure of a particular instance, it generates a report for me saying this is what it is, and then it transfers the call automatically for the corrective action. For example, there are users, and you'd be surprised to know there are users who buy SIM cards, but they're abusive users because they're just making voice calls all the time. Then what are the abusive users? If I ask that question, I would get all the mobile numbers and cluster wise, so that list directly goes to the marketing team, and they start taking the corrective actions. So those are few things which are enabled. And the cluster capacity, if I go to a particular cluster and see, okay, this cluster is meeting 80% of its capacity, 50% of its capacity, when it's going to run out of its capacity, it gives me the forecast. So it helps me replenish either the server capacity into that cluster, or put more CNFs to take the load. So that way, GenAI today is already put to use in Geo Network, though in a very, I would say, more, not the customer facing part of it, but the network operations part of it. It's live and active and kicking. Thank you.
Jeevan, thank you so much for the insights. I'm sure you realize that I've got a very diverse audience here in terms of panelists and as well as the audience. Now, coming to you, Viti, and maybe easier for the mic transition. You anchor the entire Microsoft alliances for Kindle for emerging markets. How do you see GenAI playing a role? Because given Microsoft is involved, Kindle is involved, and the suite sort, how is that coming up? Why don't you talk about
Yeah, Odit, first of all, thank you very much for inviting, and it's a pleasure to share this podium with the esteemed panelists here. Again, just to give you a background, Kindle, we are a spin-off of IBM, the largest IT managed services company in the world, with 86,000 people and close to 16 billion revenue. And we have been in the GenAI space for the last 2 years, closely working with Microsoft and other hyperscalers. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to create a platform, digital platform for our clients, where we can emerge different technologies and in one platform, so that can be used for all their clients in different areas. We have close to 4,500 clients worldwide and over 300 in India. We have a center of excellence exclusively working on the GenAI applications in India. We are trying to develop some apps which could be used by the customers, which used to be used by the clients. To give you some example, the first one is we are trying to infuse GenAI in all our practices. Like we have 6 practices: cloud, core enterprise, edge, security, resilience, networking. Everywhere we are trying to infuse GenAI. One of the international airport, I can't name the airport, but international airport, we have use the GenAI for the customer analysis, customer sentiments. So we have the chat box, everything is managed by GenAI. Everything is managed by Copilot. So there's no human intervention there. If you ask any questions, if you send an email to the airport administration block, it's all is managed by the GenAI. That prototype we have done for international airport. A telecom company in Argentina, we have worked with them. We have created a GenAI ecosystem for them to take care of all their logistic and supply chain issues. There's a largest national bank in Peru, where we are doing a digital transformation which was infused by GenAI. How we can use GenAI to optimize the operations, to increase their revenues, to optimize their whole supply chain, how to can reduce the risk, the security, data breaches and all this, again using Gen AI. So the point is, and Kyndryl, we were the first company who adopted Microsoft Copilot, working with Microsoft maybe 18 months ago, and we implemented Copilot in Kyndryl, and by July 2024, 20,000 plus our employers are using Copilot, Gen AI. So we have a zero customer story with Kyndryl. So we fully believe in this whole technology, and thanks to Microsoft and Google and Amazon of the world, we are working very closely with these giants to improvise the customer solution, digital transformation journey on these customers, how we can benefit them, how we can make sure that they have, you can impact the ROI on these customers, and that's happening. I think I can give you more examples. So in the like shortage of time, I'll not go on and on and on. But yeah, Gen AI is the main driver for Kyndryl. We have Center of Excellence of 10,000 people in India. We are trying to develop a Gen AI platform which can be used globally, not only for India. 65 countries will be using that platform, Gen AI, to manage these enterprise solutions on this platform for the global companies. Thank you.
Thank you, Viti. Nakshatra, if I may just come to you, I'm just trying to go from last to first. And you look at your specialty and your focus comes from network solutions, right? Now, when I marry Gen AI and network solutions together, what's your view? What's the view of how, and you can also, if you can, cover largely from a TCS perspective, how is TCS reimagining Gen AI? I'm sure there would be center of excellence being focused there. But if you just cover the two aspects of network and overall services from a Gen AI perspective, that would be very helpful.
Sure. Let me start by putting this code. It goes something like this, okay? There are decades when nothing happened, and then there are years when decades happen. And you look at last 1 to 2 years, okay? Close to 2.2 billion people has already used AI models. There are some wonderful stats running at the back screen, but let me give you some more, okay? Close to, if you're billion of computation, close to billions of computation we are using as compared to last 2 years of AI models. At the same time, AI models are getting more bigger, from millions of parameters to billions of parameters. Maybe very soon, we'll be using trillions of parameters for AI models. So let me give you a perspective, Udit. So if a person like me did nothing but read 24 hours a day for the entire lifetime, I will typically consume 8 billion words, okay? But today's advanced AI models are consuming 8 billion words in 1 month of training. And this is going to continue. So it is clear we are at an inflection point, because the enormous value that Gen AI brings us is going to happen, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. And the real value of Gen AI is its ability to create content, which is at par with what human creates. So for me, it is a very, very strong proposition. So if you put this in context, okay, in your organization, it has an impact on pretty much all the business value chains or organizational value chains in your company. Be it software development, be it customer care, be it contact centers, finance, marketing, everything. So if you augment your workforce with Gen AI, the efficiency increases. Let me put this in perspective a little more. Let me take an example of contact center, which is like the low-hanging fruit we are saying. So autonomous agents integrated with your call center chatbots. See, the good part of this autonomous agents is you can actually integrate them back with your backend system. So if you are, tracking your customer journey, these autonomous agents can not only interact with end customer in a human-like fashion, but also can devise a new retention offers for the customers. So it is not only about operational efficiency of the organization, you're actually looking at revenue generation as well. Similarly, take an example of SDLC code development cycle, like co-pilots or the code whisperers of the world. They not only suggest you code, they help you debug it. At the same time, they suggest you the open source usage or any licensing related terms. So it is again a very powerful efficiency enabler for a software developer, right? Media content. There are beautiful fundamental models, foundational models we call them, where you can text to video, text to image. So, and it just doesn't stop there, okay? There is no, there's no reason why a telecom company can't package these solutions and sell it to other industries. For example, education, government. Why not? So the last point I want to make, Udit, is while the technology is amazing, we are seeing a lot of issues with our customer where they got the cost of the use case wrong. So what we tell to a customer is, don't look at the technology and drive your use cases around it. You focus on your business case, you focus on your use case, and then build the technology stack around it. Maybe there are problems where you don't really need an ML or a Gen AI. It is standard closed loop automation. Maybe you really don't need a Gen AI. It can be done by a traditional AI. So that's where the TCS kind of helps the customer to kind of devise this business case so you get the first time right. Thank you.
And thank you so much for that framework. This is lovely. And coming to you, Vijay, you lead the entire telecom capability for Intel from that perspective. So how do you think Gen AI will deliver growth for Intel from telecom, making chips for the telecom industry, and what's the larger role?
Thanks. So let me first thank you for having me in this session. And basically, everyone knows, right? Intel being a semiconductor chip company, we have in the industry for more than 50 plus years, and we have partners. I mean, we are working with all the partners here, whether it is TCS, Reliance, everyone, right? I mean, so the basic thing is that we, from semiconductor point of view, we have built our chipsets right from last 50 years, which has been AI inclusive, right? I mean, we have a chipset which our Xeon processors has those integrated accelerators and those kind of capabilities which can support AI from long time back. But the focus on AI has started recently. So from that point of view, there are some use cases, some of the activities which we are trying to enable with our ecosystem partners, more on the software side, as well as those can be accelerated and those can be leveraged on the chipset itself. For example, we have inbuilt accelerators, which is part of the chipsets. And those accelerators are being utilized by some of our partner ecosystems, and they're actually developing LLM models for telco-specific use cases. For example, for RAN, for Open RAN network, they are using Intel-specific accelerators, which is generally can be deployed on the Open RAN side. Similarly, on the core side, there are specific chipsets, accelerators, which has been built in for Gen AI. Yeah, so these are the things which we are working along with the ecosystem partners, telco operators globally across the world, and Intel being an open source contribution, we are mainly focused on open source communities. So we are not into the selling business. We try to contribute more into the open source domain, and we actually embrace and push customers and partners to adopt open source as a framework for all Gen AI development as well.
All right, and thank you so much, Vijay. Raj, you lead the entire capability for the organization, setting up the entire Gen AI capability and competency. Now, given that a lot of focus is on cloud, how is Gen AI helping you enable better services on cloud, or how is Gen AI enabling the entire growth story for your organization? Given the topic is around advances, challenges, what are how do you see the future, probably from a Gen AI perspective, for the organization as well as for Gen AI in general?
Yeah. Thanks for having me here. Great panel. So I'm Senior Director at Ola Krutrim. So our primary focus is the Indian market. So as opposed to other providers, we are India first. What that really means is actually in terms of languages, in terms of culture, in terms of local knowledge, right? We are very cognizant and having models that are knowledgeable about these things. So if you take, for example, a classic RAG system, most of the offerings are either for English, European languages, or at the most Hindi. In India, for text, that might be okay to a decent extent, but when it comes to audio, we all speak in various native languages, and you don't have models catering to these languages out there because these are not of priority for them, right? For us, it's a priority. So if you see what most of them do is they translate the knowledge or audio into English and then have the RAG systems, whereas we are these languages first. So we are the ones who have launched the first India's foundational model back in February. And then we have launched India's basically all the embedding models catering to almost 10 languages, expanding to 22 odd languages. We're also building various applications for many enterprises to come onto the cloud and leverage them. For example, we are having a bunch of releases this month. If you want to bring in your traditional static knowledge that you have in your enterprise into something that's ready for building LM based, generative AI based applications, right? We have those offerings, and you can come to our cloud and host them. And you don't have to really translate to English and then make your applications work somehow, right? India first is our focus. So we are seeing a rapid adoption of this, primarily because of the audio use cases. We also, of course, we have our own Ola Electric and Ola Cabs as our first customers, obviously with a huge customer base. So we are releasing a customer center or contact center AI, where if you have a call center or customer care happening, and especially you get many of the audio calls in native languages, right? You can build your applications on top of this, and we are seeing immense amount of growth. We're also offering AI chips starting next year, I believe. But right now, we're also offering GPU, so entire stack for your use cases. So if you are a developer, if you are developing applications, you should look at us. In terms of growth, there is immense amount of potential. This is a space that's revolutionizing every single industry. In terms of content creation, of course, India is the largest content creator. But at the same time, there's also a challenge of lack of data in Indian languages. And that's the reason why most of the Western models don't have the focus, because they don't have the data ready, right? We are putting that effort to build that data sets and build our models catering to these use cases.
Gaurav, with your expertise managing digital transformation cloud solutions for the organization, now let's look at, and my question is a little more wider for you. So one is your view on Gen AI of how, and I think a lot of us understand that cloud is an enabler for Gen AI and vice versa, both of them. But let me broaden the horizon and ask you, if I look at the larger emerging technologies, how does Gen AI bring all of them together? And does it actually enable growth across some of the other emerging technologies?
So thank you, Udit, for having me here. I think stating how Gen AI can help us or help a better enablement of other technologies, I think that would be a bit of an understatement given that immense potential it carries. But then I would want to start with what we do at VVDN around Gen AI. So our applications for Gen AI in VVDN are multifold, starting right from what we do in the marketing department, where we do a lot of content generation using Gen AI, to our HR department, where we do a lot of resume shortlisting, a lot of profile matching using Gen AI, to something that we do within our developer community to ensure that productivity enhancements are leveraged. So right from ensuring that the test case documentation is rightly put, to generation of test cases themselves, to execution of test cases, to ensuring that the developers use the latest that the Microsoft Copilot or any other technologies have to offer. So there's a lot that our internal developer community is using around Gen AI to ensure that the productivity enhancements or productivity gains are leveraged. Then this is more for internal usage. For our own customers, we have got certain solutions which we have offered to our customers. So things like having a virtual assistant bot, where we ensure that the conversation that is done with a customer is human centric, is uh, the data around the entire conversation or the data spit by devices or the cloud itself is meaningfully analyzed, logs generated. So the entire log analytics piece of it, where we are able to analyze logs spit by various devices, cloud. So that leverages some of the LLMs, and these are very industry standard LLMs, Google Gemini, or other open source LLMs. So that is around where we kind of leverage our deep domain expertise to ensuring that these Gen AI models, LLMs, are fed with our deep domain expertise, questions around those deep domain understanding. So, for example, if we are to query an LLM around, let's say, a typical network equipment problem, so it will give a solution, but that may not be very relevant to the specific product in hand. So we, with our deep domain expertise, have ensured that LLMs are fed with those industry specific use cases, that knowledge base, to ensure that the responses are not just kind of relevant, but these can be meaningfully analyzed and predictive maintenance or self-healing triggered. In addition to this, if there is a scenario where we are not able to resolve a problem using GenAI, we kind of leverage some of our system integration capabilities around automatic ticket creation and generation. So if you look at it, the entire value chain of what we do at VVDN, we are leveraging GenAI in one aspect or the other. And as we kind of all know that it is an all-encompassing technology, it kind of brings the best of Industry 4.0. Now we started calling it as 5.0 together. So I think it is absolutely kind of made made an extremely positive impact on improving our productivity as well as our customer experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Gaurav. And thank you so much, everyone. Jeevan, did speak about a lot of data. So just to understand, and for all of us, how important is data and primarily data quality for driving GenAI outcomes? So if you could give us a view of what is that you're trying to ensure, given the
Yeah, it is absolutely important because junk in is junk out. So you got to make sure that what you are parsing into the LLM models has a meaning for the business. That is a challenge to clean up the data, obviously. So if you try to structure the data in the first place before parsing it into LLMs, then it is going to be time consuming and you may not see the turnaround time the way you want. So the best thing is to parse the unstructured data so that at least you reduce the load on the systems which are running it, and then try to make sense out of it. That's what most of the businesses are doing today. Primarily because there is a challenge in the power consumption, there is a challenge in hosting the LLMs on the bare metal. All of that is very expensive today. So I think the business are taking certain risks, and hence they're not exposing the customer or a consumer facing functions to the GenAI as of now. So there are certain projects which the CSPs are running towards their end consumers. However, that's after a lot of trials and errors. But at least at Geo, if I could talk about my own organization, the customer facing stuff is not yet gone on GenAI. So what has gone on GenAI is the backend stuff, wherein we are mining the documents, as my colleague from VVDN said. Because there's plethora of documents that we've got, right? So we need to know, for example, I need to ask a simple question saying, I have a presentation tomorrow on GenAI, so what is it in the repository from GenAI? So it just throws me a few documents, right? So that's how we are using it now. Rather than, exposing a chatbot to the customer. That's like a bit risky at this stage, unless the model is really proven. So coming back to your question and answering in one line, I think cleaning up data, I look at it as a challenge, but there is a trade-off that we leave it today.
Absolutely. And Jeevan, thank you so much for summarizing it. I think we in our experience have also noticed that most of the times uh, capturing data at source and ensuring that we've got the right quality while we are capturing the data in the right manner, having processes laid out becomes very, very relevant. And this is my question for you, Raj. Now we understand one of the challenge does come in from data. What are some of the other challenges you see possibly relating to Gen AI acceleration, Gen AI adoption, right? Outside of data and the source at which data is captured. So,
In terms of, particularly in terms of adoption of Gen AI, few challenges that we really see is one, people have their systems already in place, and changing it to a completely new perspective, right? Where let's say you have a chatbot already, where they have a playbook, and you are used to asking this chatbot to follow this playbook, right? It's less effective but more deterministic, and hence they have more confidence. And whereas moving to a LLM based chatbot, it allows really a wonderful user experience. But the 2% scenario where there is some unpredictability and there is some issues in terms of not being completely deterministic, we are seeing some challenges in adoption there, right? Second, in terms of particularly when I talk about Indian context scenarios, right, the challenges here are somewhat unique. For example, we were helping out a healthcare platform, right? So, in most countries, the prescription is all well digitized, properly typed, everything, and it's not a problem, and it's in English, right? Whereas if you look at the prescription that an Indian doctor writes, it's hard for anyone beyond the pharmacist next door to understand that, right? So the kind of challenges that we face are also unique. So we are putting in, let's say, a assistant on, for example, on the Ola bike, the kind of noise that you have on the road in Indian scenario is very different, and you need to solve those challenges in order to make it really highly accurate for enterprises to adopt for Indian scenarios, right? But the main hesitation, main issues are around how do I get this data into this new scenario, and adopting to a new way of looking at things is the primary set of challenges that we face. In terms of data quality, yes, it's a problem. Availability of data is a bigger problem. Data quality is a problem, but the LLMs are, or the generative AI systems, primarily LLMs, embedding models, etc., they are a lot more tolerant to noise in the data as compared to, let's say, the previous deep learning or machine learning, traditional machine learning systems. So it's a problem, but there are other challenges of uncertainty, the executive mindset, adapting to the new changes, and letting go of some of the security layers, safety layers that they have, and living with some kind amount of uncertainty that a human has, as opposed to a computer has, right? So these kind of challenges are something that we are.
lovely. Thank you.
Let me just add to that,
Please,
Udit,
please,
if you
please.
allow me.
Please, Nakshat.
See, he has given an Indian context. I'll give you a global context for this. We recently run a survey with our global operators, not only operators but enterprises as well. Okay, data quality certainly Jeevan touched upon. Then data privacy in production is very important point which everybody is kind of fearing about. And I'll give you a very good example. Okay, while we were testing these LLMs, we have to give them a certain access of our backend systems. So what was happening during our testing? This Gen AI was giving some data to the end customer which was not supposed to be given out. So we have to pull the plug there, right? At the same time, there are hallucinations, which anyways Rajkiran talked about. So for an enterprise, for a telco, an enterprise is their customer, you just can't go even 1% wrong for your enterprise. It's not like B2C, okay, it's fine if it is the wrong answer, but you can't do it with the enterprise, right? At the same time, what we observed with the data was, another element that people are talking about is they are not clear about the regulation. What if AI give me an answer? What is my mitigation plan? What if it goes rogue? What is my mitigation plan? The companies are not clear about the mitigation plan. They are not clear about the regulations for their country or even the global regulations. Third part comes to the AI skill set in the company. They are still figuring about a team who can kind of identify the right AI models. Yes, AI models claims to be wonderfully good, but is it good for my organization? Is it applicable to the use cases that I have? And the last part is about possibly that we observed skill set. Maybe it will come under the skill set itself. Was I'm probably missing that point. Yeah, I will leave it to that.
No
Yeah?
worries. Thank you, Nakshar. So, Viti, and you bring in a global perspective largely from the two very large organizations you deal with. How do you see the Gen AI story in India? Is it any different than the global story, either in terms of challenges, enablement, acceleration, adoption? And if there is, how different it is? Uh,
So thank you. Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Let me just complete the question. Arnab showed me the watch. You've seen Arnab, right? So you're on a watch, please.
So no, I'll quickly answer. Yeah, I think the global challenges and the Indian challenges are not different. They are the two or maybe four or five main things which all the companies are trying to resolve, because I am getting the feedback from the enterprises. The main challenge is the data privacy, data security. So whether it is US or India or Europe or Middle East, they don't trust. So the trust issue is there. And then the second thing is, if there's a data leakage, what are the mitigation plan they have? So the companies, when you go and talk to them, the first question they ask is, if everything fails, how can I come back? Because I'll again give you example of Emirates. We were trying to take their mission critical workloads from the mainframe to cloud for Azure, and the chief C-level people in Emirates said, for the last 32 years, the system is running and there's no crash landing. Everything is hunky-dory. You are telling me that you are getting a technology and you will improvise our system? Thank you. Wait for 1 year. When my term finishes, the new CEO comes, then you take it from there. So what is the answer to that? He said, one crash landing, I lose my job. 1,000 safe landings, nobody pats my back. So that story is common everywhere, whether it is Europe, Middle East, or India. People are not very much sure where this technology is going. So answering your question, Gen AI, it's an elephant. It's a big elephant. Right now, people don't know what is ROI. If I'm putting $6-7 billion, Microsoft has put $7 billion. Are they getting out of that? So that will take time, because it's not going to happen tomorrow. So I think whether it is India or anywhere, Udit, my answer is like there are some challenges. There are common challenges everywhere, which I see. It's no different.
Very fair. Given that we short on time, and sincere apology, I think this session started late. Maybe I instead of just having the seven of us having a discussion, I would prefer to open it to the larger audience for any Q&A. But before I do that, just to bring in a perspective, I think we spoke about how multiple industries are seeing and adopting Gen AI and what's the future they're looking at. In terms of telecom as a market, it's roughly about, if I go with some of the market surveys, about 5 billion is what they anticipate it to be, right? And in terms of CAGR and growth, and like I think Viti was saying and some of the people did touch upon, we are typically looking at about a 40% CAGR for Gen AI for the next 10 years, right? Telecom, given that it is more technology holistic in its approach and it's more front end in terms of technology adoption, we may see a better or a higher CAGR for telecom in the sector. With this, if there are no comments, maybe if we can open to the large.
I'll just take one more second now. India is at a very level playing field in Gen AI, okay? The largest data of the world is flowing through our networks. So it is a good time to have an alliance like you have Bharat 6G Alliance. I would certainly recommend to have a Bharat AI Alliance as well. So that India can have an indigenous Gen AI which can be taken to the world.
Very fair. Thank you, Nakshatra.
My question to the panelist is, for telcos, we are not able to break beyond a customer support use case, right? When it comes to Gen AI. And any other use case when we talk about, it is generally solvable via a simple ML AI model, right? Any use case pertaining to telcos which you can envision in upcoming future related to Gen AI.
Can I answer that? And then I network optimization. So whenever there is a network which is down, right? You may want to look at the logs. You may want to look at the vendor contract, asset contracts, right? Now Gen AI can summarize it for you and then tell you what's the problem. So that sort of cuts down your time to ensure that your network uptime
Some
is
sort of log analytics, right?
any form of network optimization, right? Any form of customer support, you just said, there are hundreds of use cases. Then there are use cases within the organization which are more fundamental in nature. You talk about predictive maintenance. You may leverage, want to use for asset quality in telecom, Gen AI. So there are a lot of cases. Yes, you want to come.
I can take that question specifically. Like, I was trying to do SON, self-optimizing network, almost I would say 7 years ago, if I remember correctly, 7 years, 8 years ago, 7 years ago. And the systems, the ML systems over there, the AI systems at that point of time really needed immense amount of data pertaining to various specific use cases. What you're able to do right now with Gen AI, especially if you take SON kind of system, is with very little amount of data, very little amount of rule making, right? You're able to solve those. I mean, I would say in general, think of any place where you have human experts currently doing something. Gen AI definitely has a role over there. Customer service is just one part of it, but actually it's in a place to replace experts, not the low end stuff.
Raj, thank you. Maybe before we move to the next question, the simplest use case is actually creating training data. For any systems to work, you need to create data. Gen AI, by the very nature, can help you generate data, right? So you don't need to work on typical customer data, given a lot of regulations around. Gen AI can help you create data for training. That's the most simplest use case outside of customer support. But thank you so much for the question, sir. Please.
Good evening. This is Manoj from Voxma Systems. My question is showcasing ROI in Gen AI use cases. What are the top tactics that worked or didn't work? Yeah, so my question is about showcasing ROI in Gen AI use cases. What are the tactics that worked or didn't work?
Absolutely. So I would request maybe just about 6-7 words from each of you about just from a ROI perspective, how do you justify a use case when it comes to Gen AI?
Yeah, again, ROI is a term. You cannot relate ROI to financial numbers only. It could be the productivity gain. It could be the shortage of the timeline. It could be the efficiency. It could be the revenue model. It could be anything. So we are getting ROI from the Gen AI use cases in different forms and format. Yeah.
So just to add, I think ROI, yes, there are different ROIs for different use cases implementation of Gen AI. So I think there's a very well-defined quadrant given by Gartner's study, which says that these initiatives will yield you the maximum ROI, others will not. So for example, things like log analytics or things like virtual assistant chatbot, they are those initiatives, those use cases which can yield you maximum ROI. But things like architecture designing, things like digital twin, they may not yield you a very high ROI. So I think there is a very well defined set of use cases that can tell you as to which one should you go for implementation first. Thank you.
If I may add,
Please, Vijay.
yeah. So basically, what we are hearing from most of the organizations, whether it is customers or partners, one of the major challenge for them is the compute resource requirement. Basically, the infrastructure which is required from Gen AI point of view. So today it is quite costly, and there are integration complexities, tools which is required. Those are all like little bit on the costlier side today. So as we progress, I mean, Intel is working along with customers, ecosystem partners, and everyone to make it more cost effective, make it more responsible, and those kind of things. So gradually, I think we'll have more power efficient and cost efficient kind of a solution.
Sure. And thank you. With this, thank you everyone. I think the next session is about to start. Just to give you one more number while we get off the stage, if you compare the Gen AI adoption between last year and this year, it has gone up by about 40 odd %. That is because it is primarily driven by ROI. But thank you so much for being a wonderful audience. Thank you, panel. Thank you, everyone.